evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the TinFoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? We got a great show tonight. Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson, and we are broadcasting from the E-United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Guys, if you haven't done this, we got some really big news. If you haven't heard, if you haven't checked it out yet, just saw this pop up in my social feed. There's actually been a UFO spotted over the skies of Georgia. Okay, so it was captured on security cam. All you have to do is just hop on, give a quick Google search, Georgia security cam UFO, and you'll see it. It looks really good. It's a very clear video footage of a cylinder type object flying around. Really, caught my attention. I don't know. It might be a drone. Is it us? Is it them? I don't know. Definitely check it out. Go Google search it. And I would love to hear your opinions on the next show. All right. Also, speaking of show, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our boy, Ryan Stacy. If you guys haven't done so yet, be sure to check out his show that airs on Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern, The Skeptical Sleuth. Brian covers some really interesting stuff. He really breaks stuff down for you. If you're interested in doing an investigating yourself or how to investigate, be sure to check out Ryan's show, The Skeptical Sleuth. All right. Now, I'm excited about tonight's guest. Really, I am. This he's got some really interesting stories, some really interesting stuff. So I tell you what, let's sit back, relax, and get your questions ready for researcher and author of Ancient Mysteries, Robert Stanley.
Hey, Danny.
How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing well, thanks. I can tell you're really excited.
I'm always excited.
That's good.
But I tell you what, Robert, if you don't mind, like I said, I gave you somewhat of an intro here, but do you care to let the viewers maybe know a little more about yourself?
Well, let's see. I had an intro here somewhere. Wasn't sure I was going to do this. Oh, yes. Hi, this is Robert Stanley. I'm the host of the Unicus Report. No, that's the wrong one. Anyway, I'm an author of 2 books that I didn't intend to write. I'm an editor of a magazine that used to be in print called Unicus Magazine, the magazine for Earthbound Extraterrestrials, which I know sounds weird. Which is now only available on the internet, unicusmagazine.com. Having a little problem with that. So that's why I have my Substack, which I wasn't even planning on doing. There's a lot of things in my life. I guess you call me the Forrest Gump of UFOs, man. I don't plan this stuff. It happens, but what am I going to do, right? Life is a box of chocolates. Or UFOs, I guess, in this case. So, I was publishing these 2 books, and that's how I ended up becoming a host of the Unicus Report. It was the first time I was on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. And
Nice.
After that show, I got contacted by a producer in Florida, which that's where I'm at now. This was years ago. It was back in 2000 and six, 2000, late 2006, 2007. I forget now. It's all kind of blurry. I'm getting old, man. Anyway, he asked me if I wanted to host a show, and I said I don't know how to do that. And he goes, "Oh, I'll just walk you. You'll be fine. I'll walk you through it." So it was absolutely ridiculously amateur, but I got a few shows in there, and it kind of whet my appetite a little bit, and that's why I occasionally you'll see me hosting shows like this, and like I said, the first book started as an article. Okay, with pictures of UFOs or entities landing on one of them landed on the roof of the Capitol, and this is, but for people who don't know, okay, sorry if I repeat myself. Some people do know me, but when I say there's photographs, those are 35 millimeter photographs taken with professional Nikon equipment on film. The film was analyzed. The photographer was a professional photographer who had worked in DC specifically for ABC News for 14 years. And he was doing a freelance job that night at the Capitol. And that's how he caught these things, this event.
I'm thinking of the time because I do remember hearing this story. Mm-hmm. Was this during the 60s, 50s?
No. You're thinking of exactly 50 years earlier, July of 1952. I'm talking about July. Yes, I'm talking about July 16th of 2002. Okay, so
wow.
a lot of people said, "Oh, gee, they're 50 years later. They came back." No, no, they didn't. They were coming the entire time. It's just most people weren't paying attention, and more importantly, officially, none of this ever happened. If you ask anyone in the government, this is not a threat to national security. Even if they come into prohibited and controlled the restricted airspace over the Capitol, maybe even touch down on the Capitol, they're completely silent on this issue. And I gave them a chance. Believe me, look, I gave the Capitol Police Public Relations Department a chance to make a comment, which they did. And then a week later, when I published the article, I got a visit from a black helicopter at my house in a civilian neighborhood. And it scared the crap out of me. And thank goodness my wife and son weren't home that afternoon, but I was. And they came in and they were circling over the house really low, shaking the entire house. Naturally, I went out to see what was going on. And at that point, they were literally hovering over my driveway. So low, I could have hit them with a rock. Not that I would, but I mean, and I was stunned. I was really, really shocked. I wasn't even sure black helicopters even existed until I actually came face to face with one. And naturally, they didn't say anything to me. I assumed they were taking my picture, but that's kind of stupid. I mean, I was already a public figure, not famous, but I mean, I wasn't hiding. I'd already been, working as an editor. I've been on television and in print, whatever.
You were easy to find.
I told them where I lived. Okay, look, it's not, how do you think they found me? When I spoke to the public relations officer up front and I said, "Look, I've got some questions about this event." He said, "What do you mean?" And I told him, I ran it by him, the scenario. I said, "Yeah, we got photographs of this happening. And what I don't understand is how come nobody's responding? Where are the Capitol Police?" That was just part of it. And he says, "Well, who are you? Where are you? What do you really want?" And I said, "I want to give you guys a chance to make a statement on the record, and well, where are you going to publish this?" And I told him, I said, my website and possibly in print, which happened. That did happen. Internationally, went into a Nexus magazine because Unicus was already off the newsstands at that point. 2000. I'm getting senile. 2005. Summer of 2005. Actually, July. Yeah, I published it. I published an article with the pictures and a little bit of a background of the photographer, whatever. Comes from a respectable military family there in DC. And he's, like I said, a professional using professional equipment. And we don't know what the hell happened, but something happened, for sure. And
so what time did this take place back in 2002? Was this in the middle of the night?
Yes. It literally from like 11 something till 1 in the morning. But the police, Capitol Police, or someone should have responded, you would think, and they didn't.
But no one responded. No, it just acts like this wasn't happening, but it was happening.
Oh, it definitely happened. You could see It's not funny, but it's yeah, whatever. The guy who was being photographed was a local hip hop artist, and he's sitting at the reflecting pool, looking towards the camera like I'm doing now. And he turns because there was a lot of shots. You know, you got to take 100 more shots to do whatever to get the one or two, whatever. You can see him looking over his shoulder, and his eyes are literally like ginormous. He's freaked out. In fact, so the photographer told me after he got paid for that job, he never saw that guy again, ever. And weird too, you know, it was weird too. He was wearing a Washington Wizards shirt. Now that shouldn't mean anything except there's a synchronicity there. I mean, magic, a different kind of magic, not entertainment. The Wizards, this is and it turns out that, so this is what I found out. All right, that was just my introduction to it. And then I found out, like I said, once the black helicopter came to my house, I'm like, wow, they must really be worried that, I mean, like if this is nothing, why are you sending a military helicopter to my house?
So the photographer, did they harass them as well?
Look, his dad was working in the nuclear, biological, chemical weapons division. He contracted Agent Orange in the laboratory. He was on his deathbed and his brother worked for the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the time. So they were not really thrilled about the fact that he was putting these pictures out there. In fact, his dad told him, don't show these pictures to anyone. He ordered him. Now, of course, the photographer he's an adult at the time, and he loved his dad who was dying, but he felt compelled because he'd experienced as a child when he was living in England. He was an army brat. I think his dad was Army or Air Force. I forget which one. Anyway, he was one of those, and he would live on the base or sometimes off base, but near Sculthorpe. He and his brother both were abducted by Greys and implanted. So, and it bothered him his entire life, but he managed to get on with his life until he started photographing these things in July of 2002. And
so he had already had an experience prior to this.
Yeah.
Which, once again, I want to say this because I talk about this a lot on this show, Robert, is it seems like a lot of people, the more become more sensitive, the more you're opened up to this world, the more you experience things, I saw my actual first UFO sighting about 6 months ago. And it was whenever I was, I had opened the windows and the doors open and I was paying attention and I started seeing, I finally saw something like that. I find that interesting. But this is something, first of all, I do want to add this, guys, an hour is not going to be long enough with Robert. I'll tell you right now.
No, you need a couple days.
But let's, I want to back up just really quick. Okay. What got you interested in this? What started it for you?
Do you mean let's start with Washington, D.C. I received an email from a retired, let's just call him a military policeman. He's well known. Daryl Sims he calls himself the UFO hunter. And I'd met Daryl. We became friends. And he forwarded me the email from the photographer. And he asked me if I thought these were real photographs. And my first reaction was, I didn't even talk to Daryl. I just looked at it and I thought, okay, I'm looking at this in May of 2005, but the event happened in July of 2002. If that really happened, how come nobody's talking about it? That seemed very suspicious. But there was a phone number for the photographer in the email. So I just called him up. I said, hey, man, I'm looking at your photographs. What's going on? And he said, oh, well, and he goes, yeah, come on, I work for ABC News. Who do you think was the first people after I gave copies to the detective division at the Capitol Police? He said, who do you think I went to in the media? I started with ABC. I knew this. He says, I worked directly with the station chief there, at the White House and at the Capitol and on Marine One. And he said, he's like, and I gave him that, and it was crickets. All right. So, and then he went to NBC and CBS and National Geographic. And he says, when he got tired of knocking on the door of all the mainstream people he thought would respond to this, he started going to the UFO community and finding out, no, nobody wanted to touch. In fact, they were telling me that's not even a real, those pictures aren't really. It's like, what are you talking about? I took those. I took those pictures.
To back up to something that people may not think about either, when you think of how, this is what blows my mind, is because 2002, we're talking 2002 here, guys.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know how fresh 9/11 was in 2002?
Yes,
we weren't just cool with anything flying around our skies.
No. And so the police, I mean, the detective division, when and his name is Mr. Wilbur Allen, when he gave them a copy on a DVD disc, and they plugged it in, and they were looking at it, they're like, whoa, how could our cameras not see this activity, you know? So even though they'd upgraded after 9/11, without giving out details, they had to take it to another level, right? So, yeah, that's how I got started doing that investigation.
And was that your first experience, though, in this world?
No, absolutely not. No. Okay, so, geez. Most of my close encounters took place in my hometown of Malibu, where I grew up, back in the 80s and early 90s. And ultimately, that's in 1990 is when I met my wife. She was the publisher of Unicus magazine, which is spelled UNICUS magazine, and she had just come back from Peru, and she'd had a close encounters there with UFOs and human extraterrestrials there. Yeah, it is. Well, that's why they invited her. She was having like a lucid dream. And they said, you know, basically, if you come down to South America, we'll show you around where we live, which they did on the last night of the tour there at Lake Titicaca. They literally took her out of the hotel room and across the lake, and then under the ground into where they had their base. It's a city underground. Okay, it's not that big a deal to me now. I can talk about it. Whatever. She's in the corporate world. I've worked in the corporate world, but you know what? That stuff is silly to us. We do it to make a living and pay bills, but we know the bigger picture because we've experienced it. So anyway, I'd had many close encounters in Malibu near Point Mugu Naval Base. Now that place is famous because a lot of people think there's a UFO base under the water there. They wrongfully believe that because, I won't even say his name, but a particular talk show host was promoting it and using some very weird graphics, and it confused people. And I think that was the plan. And that's one of the things about this community is that, you know, there's a lot of misinformation or disinformation or malformations or whatever the heck you want to call it today. But it basically lies, you know, that we're being.
It seems like,
fed.
Do you think, and I noticed that too, and it seems like sometimes like something truthful will come out, and with real evidence of what's happening that's getting us closer to the truth. And then it seems like they throw out left field BS,
Yes,
you know,
always.
something that's totally not true. And I even told Ryan, the founder of TESSA, the Experience of Support, I said, you know, the best way to hide the truth is to roll it in a bunch of lies.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
And I kind of think that's, but let me ask you this real quick, Robert,
Go
just
ahead.
your opinion here. Do you think, though, that is part of their process of letting the public in very slowly? It's like you give us a little bit of rope and then you take a little back because, you know.
Yes, it's called acclimating. It's also called social engineering. So what I was told by one of the retired military intelligence people that I spoke to, and it's in the book, my first book, Close Encounters on Capitol Hill, he told me that there's two factions that are in the group that's allegedly controlling this information from Washington, D.C. And he said that one group doesn't want anybody to know anything, and the other group is saying, no. So it's kind of like good cop, bad cop. And when, they keep feeding us little bits and pieces, supposedly to bring us up to the point where they can actually admit what's going on without causing breakdown of society, destabilizing us.
Like, I love the fact that we have Congress right now, like Luna and Burchett, you know, my guy I'm in Knoxville, so my guy here in Knoxville, you know, He's
which I
really
can't get a
pushing.
hold of him. I'd love to give him this information. Believe me, I try. I work very hard. In fact, that's why we're having this conversation, is because I'm out there promoting this, not because I want to sell books, is
Yeah.
because I think we, the public, have a right to know what the heck is going on in
And
our nation's capital covertly.
it's insulting, when you think of, because I was thinking this, and it really kind of almost angers you. It's like,
Tell
if
me
you
about it.
people know for a fact that there is another interdimensional non-human intelligence that exists in this reality, and
Yeah.
you refuse to let us know, I mean, that is the
Okay, you're right. But here's the other side of that coin. The extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals, whatever you want to call these beings, right? I fault them as well. They've been here for thousands of years. And why aren't they having a dialogue with us? They could end this charade anytime,
I've
and they're
thought about
not.
that. I tell you what, we'll come right back to that
Okay.
topic. But we do have our first question
Okay.
of the evening. And first of all, we need to give her a huge introduction, because Live Light, she's here every show, and she
Oh,
comes with
cool.
the greatest questions. So love to see you, Liv. Let's see. We've got, hi, Robert. Do you think Malibu Canyon is a hot spot for extraterrestrial activity, or is it all the strangeness more likely all government related?
Okay, so hi, Liv. I don't know if you read I just published an article about Malibu Canyon. Maybe that's what you're referring to. That was about murders that go on there and that are unsolved. Further up the coast, where I grew up and lived there near Zuma Beach, Point Doom is what most people think is the UFO base. It's actually a little further north. There is Point Magoo, and just inland from there is where I had all my encounters. Most of my encounters, very close encounters, mostly at night, took place in the mountains there. To make it even stranger, there are megalithic ruins up in those mountains. So, so, and this is going to sound completely weird. I don't know who made them, but they are predating the Native Americans, because I talked to some of the elders and they said, no, we didn't make that. The first people made those. So, and they were all wiped out in a flood. Right. So that thing that was on Google Earth that looked like, like an entryway there at Point Magoo, actually it's not. And I have an article about that on my Substack. But what I'm trying to say is there is something there. It looks like a mound. It's perfectly oval shaped, and there's actually some features there that weren't put onto or allowed to be seen on Google Earth. I went to a different government agency and actually dug that up. That article is called, I think it's called Digital Deception in the Pacific. I forget. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's been. Look, I have so
Well,
much
it's there
material.
on your Substack.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's called Digital Deception in the Pacific. But yeah,
Okay.
Malibu is a hotspot. Yes, it is, and it has been for a long time. I mean, we could sit here and do the rest of the show. I'd tell you about the weirdness. It's usually not in the daytime, but it happens sometimes, and the military knows about it, and they'll scramble jets and trying to chase them out of there. And even Johnny Carson saw one when he told Whitley Strieber that he saw one pass over his house there at Point Doom.
He sure did. He sure did. There's a lot of people, a lot of celebrities that,
Yes.
have seen. Even, right now, people,
What?
celebrities. A guy, Pat McAfee, a sports guy.
Really?
Probably one of the most busiest people in the world, and he flies a lot. He saw a UFO on his plane, on his jet.
Well, so did Governor Ronald Reagan.
That's an interesting story as far as
It was daytime, and
apparently
he saw
knew.
it. Yeah, well, he and the pilot were talking about it, but that's not as nearly as interesting as the fact that he allegedly, when he and Nancy drove from Santa Barbara down to Beverly Hills, Lucille Ball was having a party, and they were late, and they told people they were shook up apparently, so they saw a UFO land on the beach. I don't know exactly where, but supposedly Ronald pulled over and got out and went out there and talked to some people, and then they proceeded on to Beverly Hills that night. They were freaked out. Who wouldn't be?
I always find that interesting, Robert. Like, why do you think, like I think some presidents in the past have been briefed on and told the truth, and some have been lied to.
Yeah, obviously. I think it's a little of both. Yeah.
And I think now, I mean, I could probably say, yeah, I'm not telling this guy anything. But it's interesting. Like, you know, you'll hear apparently, you know, President Clinton tried and was told, you know, no, we don't know anything. Jimmy Carter, President Carter, on the other hand, I feel, you know, the story about what he was told. And Reagan apparently knew. Nixon, the story with Nixon and
down here in Florida, Homestead Air Force Base, and Jackie Gleason and all that stuff.
Jackie Gleason, absolutely. The Jackie Gleason story with that.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I wonder why some were kind of, you know, told and some weren't.
Because they don't really run the show, okay?
No, they don't.
They get paid to do public speaking, you know. It's just, they don't make the policy, honestly.
They're meat puppets. They're just, you know.
Yeah. Well, look, I know we're coming up on a break, so I don't want to like get into the middle of something really deep.
There you go. Robert's a great guest, folks. He really is.
Oh, thanks. You're too kind.
But here it is, though. I mean, it is I think that, you know, I mean, because there's so much information every day, especially if you follow this stuff that pops up constantly. We've got new whistleblowers. I don't know if you saw the Carneal speech there at the SALT conference that they had.
I believe, yes, it's on the internet. I did see that something about
you
UAPs.
Can definitely check that out. There are just so many that are coming out, credible, you know, highly educated, you know, people in the military. They don't have an incentive for rich, you know, fame and fortune and money, and you know, these guys got a hell of a retirement package. They don't need this stuff.
Yes, which they could lose very easily if they talk too much.
Absolutely. So it's just, I think that we are on the verge, though, of the side that wants to give the truth.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to happen. It's just.
Well, okay. Speaking of that, so if people go to my Substack, at the very top of the page is an article called "You Can Handle the Truth." All right, so I don't know if that's true though. We'll find out, right? We'll see. I don't think people. What are they going to do? You can't leave the planet. You can't jump off the planet if you go. What are you going to do? Hide under a desk?
Trust me, I wish you could jump off the planet and leave the planet a lot of times. Really, I wish we could, but yeah, you're right. We can't. Now this is the thing that I've wondered, because I've kind of wondered what has made the United States kind of light the fire under this issue to start talking about, you know, just getting the truth out there to the public. Is it because other countries are like, hey, we're ready to do this. If you guys want to be first, like you like to be first in everything, you may want to get started on this because we're about to let the cat out of the bag. But now, something else, Robert, that I think me and you can handle it. I think the more you open once you get past the whole fantasy, amazement, shock of the reality of it, it starts to settle in a little more and you accept it a little more. Yeah. But this is one thing I do worry about, and we'll touch base on right here in a minute when we come back from the break. But not just us, but how will some of the other countries in the world who are maybe a little more religion dominated, controlled, how will they react to this type of news, and how it may affect, you know, world relations and a lot of things we got going on right now. But I tell you what, after the break, I do want to get your opinion on that.
All right.
And like I said, you guys get your questions ready. We got Robert Stanley here, and this guy's got a lot of cool stories. Guys, we'll be right back after this break.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Business. It's your property.
Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services.
Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the TinFoil Hat. And if you guys are just now tuning in, we have been talking with researcher and author Robert Stanley. All right, Robert, now to pick up where we left off, you know, I always kind of wondered that. Like a lot of times, you know, in the United States, we think, well, we can handle it. You know, this would be no issue. But we do know there's a lot of other places in this world that we're not sure, you know, they still throw people off of cliffs over religious beliefs. So I wonder how they would handle, you know, something, you know, extraordinary as proof as that. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Brookings Institute, this is a think tank in Washington, D.C., basically came to that conclusion back in the 50s when NASA was getting its charter. They told them, hey, your manned and unmanned missions, you're going to find extraterrestrials and or their artifacts. And we suggest strongly that you do not reveal this to the public because it has the potential to destabilize society around the world. Yes, they mentioned religious people, but they also said scientists would probably lose it.
Why? And you know, here's the thing. I've always been, and that is such a great point, too. That is such a great point because I've always been a big fan of science, and I still am. I still believe in the scientific method to test things 100%. I think people get lost, though, with what science is. Science isn't a belief mechanism. Science is a method. You know, it is what it is. And
yeah, but it starts off with usually with a theory that you then prove or disprove, right? That's the
absolutely.
method.
And here's the thing that I tell people all the time. I said, everything we know, every theory, every physicist out there, astrophysicist, it's the best guess they have.
Yes. Right.
Until they find a better guess.
Usually. Not always, because there's a lot of politics involved in it too, and ego and money.
There is. Like there's a guy who I used to worship, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and now it annoys me every time he speaks because he's so arrogant. Here's the thing. My background, okay, I've studied how to deceive people for 30 years, you know.
Okay.
So I don't walk into something just believe, that's the truth. That's it. You know, no. I mean, I really look at it, and in a lot of cases, whenever it comes to UFO, paranormal, sometimes the best thing I can say is, well, that's interesting.
Right.
And to me, that's as good as I can get it. That's because I wasn't there. I did not have the actual experience myself.
Right.
But I am open and aware of there's more out there, you know.
Obviously.
So exactly, and it's getting undeniable. You can't argue with it. It's just
okay. But the implications, Danny. Look, we're running out of time. I'd love to listen to you, but I got to jump in here.
Go ahead, man.
No, because you asked a question about why are so-called disclosure? Why are they accelerating that process right now? And the answer, in my opinion, of many decades of research and experiences, is that we're in World War III. World War III is a continuation of World War II and World War I. And actually all of this planet has been engulfed in a cosmic war for thousands of years. The Christians call it the war in heaven, which is a misleading term because it's not in heaven. It's in the heavens. And obviously that would include us. Okay. So this is why so many of these so-called spacecraft or UFOs or UAPs or whatever you want to call them today, they crash. It's not because they're stupid and don't know how to navigate through our skies. It's because they're shooting at each other. And it's really well documented if you look for it. Specifically, I would ask people to go, if you've never heard of this, the Nuremberg UFO battle of 1561. There's a very interesting woodcut of this. You can see, anybody can dial it up on the internet, and you could see that there was a lot of different colors and shapes of UFOs, and they were fighting. It was an aerial battle. Now, clearly, we didn't have that technology, obviously, and yet somebody did, and they were at each other's throats. So and then if you look back in the Sumerian, Akkadian, Mesopotamian stuff, you can see that there was these blood feuds going on between these different family members. Okay. Since you brought up science, I should point out too that this is something that confuses a lot of people. The Anunnaki language is very interesting, but we don't speak it. They gave us a slightly different version of what they speak. They don't speak their language to us, but in their language, serpent means scientist. And there's different. So this is why Jesus said, be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove. That's what he was talking about. He knew. He clearly knew who they were or are. All right. Most people in the Middle East, it wasn't a secret to them. They knew about these angels or gods or whatever you want to call them. But scientists among the Anunnaki are one-eyed serpent is somebody who's only sort of like Neil deGrasse Tyson, whatever his name is. He's very focused on only the physical. A two-eyed serpent is a holistic, so this physical and the metaphysical, spiritual, they have it all. Because two eyes, actually it's three, but whatever. The point is the serpent in the garden was a scientist, and his name is Enki. He's also known as Samael and Ea and many other titles. Lucifer, a light bearer. He is a Nakash, a shining one. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, well, hey, history isn't boring, my friend. If you really dig deep into it, you're going to be blown away. I still am. And more importantly, it blows my mind that how little people know, or little, even less, that they care about it's our heritage. I would think that people would care about their lineage here on this planet, the true history, but they, okay, here's why. Okay, I'm not trying to judge people. I'm not really upset with you guys, but here's the bottom line. We're slaves. We're slaves to some of these beings that claim ownership over us. They have enslaved us. And they lie to us. They lie, cheat, steal, kill. They're obviously, like I said, what is the first casualty of war? Truth. So they're obviously not going to tell us, their servants who worship or work for them, they're not going to tell us the truth. That's what I said before earlier. This is why they don't land and talk to us, give a press conference. We work for them.
So do you think we're kind of like their science experiment?
No.
Some people seem to believe that's
no. No, it's not. They're not experimenting. Do you think what you call the mafia, the experimenting to see how much money they can? No, they have a plan. They have protocols. You cross the line, feed you to the fishes, or what do you say? Sleep with the fishes. Sorry.
Sleep with the fishes. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is not an experiment. No, we're not a petri dish. And this thing that Sitchin, what his translation about us being, apes and all this stuff no, there's no proof of that. I'll tell you what there is proof of. Sitchin was given a scholarship to the London School of Economics, which is owned by the Rothschild family. You know who else graduated from there? George Soros.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so George Soros is over there doing social engineering and manipulating currencies and all this stuff. And Sitchin's over here doing his little kabuki theater allegedly about, what a great guy Enki is. And what he's done for us. Lord Enki, the light bearer. I'm sorry. It's funny to me now, but I've been at this a minute, and there's no point in getting pissed off about it. It is what it is. We just have to deal with it, and just pointing fingers at people isn't going to solve the problem. Ultimately, go ahead.
Robert, do you think, how I mentioned interdimensional, or
Yep.
are they from another planet, another rock?
Good
Or is this their home?
point. Good point. No, that's more misdirection. Yes, of course they have when they're in the physical realm, of course they've got different planets that they live on. But if you remember the translation, and this was one of the things Sitchin was accurate about. He claims Anunnaki means from heaven to earth came. Well, that is true. We are all Anunnaki if you want to use that translation. That's not really what it means, but that's an accurate statement. They came from heaven. We all came spiritually from heaven to this realm, which is obviously not heaven, right?
No.
Everybody can agree to that. This isn't heaven. So here's the confusion. When you say that, a lot of people go, oh no, they came from the heavens. They're extraterrestrial. Yeah, but they're also interdimensional. They literally, we all migrated from heaven to this realm that is controlled by, in my opinion, it was created and controlled by fallen angels.
Okay.
Why?
We've got a quick question popped in here from Live Life. Here, we'll get this. Is there a hope for our socially engineered society? Can we evolve beyond our 3D selves?
That's a nice question. Yes, obviously we can. People that have near-death or out-of-body experiences know for a fact that this is not the only reality. And okay, so some people feel like they're imprisoned here. That's an imposition they have placed upon us because they want us to remain enslaved, ignorant, compliant slaves. But that's not what we are. On a soul or spiritual level, we could leave and never come back. But that takes effort, all right? And I'm not talking about rocket ships. I'm talking about spiritual work internally, not only to increase one's resonance, but to, more importantly, in order to reunite or remember with the galactic and or the cosmic family. You're not going to like this, all right? Because it sounds too simple. And I didn't make this up. I'm just reporting what I've learned. We must forgive ourselves and others for everything that we've ever done in this lifetime and every other one that we're here in this, whatever, universe, matrix thing that they put together to play God. They did it to play God. They left heaven to create their own domain. They wanted to be God or gods, and they are, but they are doing a very poor job of it, in my opinion. I'm trying to be very correct with my language here.
So it sounds like you're kind of pointing more at the direction, like, almost like a fallen angel type
Not
being.
almost. There's a bunch of them, and they work together. Like I said, it's organized crime. They're cosmic criminals. And here's the other part that you're not going to like.
Cosmic criminals.
Yes, they are. They have technology. When I said Enki's a scientist, what do you think that means? They've got technology, and they gave it to us so that we could be more useful to serving their agenda. And one of the things that they have is what, we're now all like talking about artificial intelligence. That's not correct. It's an artificial or synthetic life form. It mimics biological life forms, but it's synthetic. And it's completely subservient. It's totally, once you create something like that, it doesn't have the emotional issues that we do, right? Because it doesn't have a soul, but it's still intelligent enough. It can do all kinds of computations and other things that you want it to do without question. So some of the angelic beings that we see in the past are, in fact, artificial intelligence or synthetic life forms. And they were created, most of them were created by the fallen angels to serve the agenda. But that's not, like I said, this is a war that's going on here between good and evil here. And it's causing all kinds of strange battles to be fought that we don't understand. Like Arthur C. Clarke said, advanced technology to primitive is going to seem like magic or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which, that's when, when you think about, especially how a lot of us, if we were raised in type of religion, it's almost like a magical feel of the miracles and whatnot. But if you look at it, and the technology, if we would have saw this technology 100 years ago, it would look exactly like magic to us, the everyday technology we use now.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine going to your ancestors and showing them a cell phone? Connected to an internet? What are you talking about? You're gibbering. You're a gibbering idiot. You've lost your mind. There's no such thing. That can't be. Even electricity. We still don't know for sure about electrons.
Exactly.
It's all theory. I'm sorry, but it is nuclear theory, and it's just that. It's still not fully. It's not fully formed. Or concluded. Like you said, this is our theory for now, and this is what we're going to work with. But, it could be superseded once we get new information. Yeah, okay. But you think these guys are going to go quietly? The ones that are so invested in getting grants and their titles, their egos, and the money? Hell no. Like, Grayson. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I got to find it's so interesting with you, Robert, because you are... Wow. I mean, man, you're a super wealth of knowledge on this topic. And, it amazes me that people like you walk around every day amongst us that know these things, that have really dug and found this stuff out. Just like with the UFOs, the White House 2002, I haven't heard that story. I mean,
yeah.
Like I did hear the one in the 50s that took place, what I always found interesting, but I didn't hear about that.
Okay, so how many times do you think they showed up in 1952 in Washington, D.C.? Guess.
I'm just sure. I just know the once, but
sure okay.
Was...
Well, the global news media reported it 3 times: July, and then twice, and then once in September. It happened over 80 times that year. And people, yes, and that's why when it happened in summer, in summertime, people are out and they've got cameras because a lot of them are tourists in Washington, D.C., and they were taking pictures and movies and all of that, according to, he's deceased now, Colonel Wendell Stevens. I asked him, I said, hey, it's in the public record. It says there was hundreds of people out there taking pictures. Where is that stuff? Oh, he says that was all confiscated by the military. Wow. Okay. So we can't even see a historical event or events like that because why? Because it makes the government look incompetent? Maybe. I mean, like I said, what do you think? People, it's like day of the earth, so people are going to run around the streets screaming? No, actually, the accounts that I found, people were not doing that. They were stunned, they were curious, but they weren't acting crazy.
And I think the stun wears off after a little bit, and then you start to accept that, wow, this is a reality that, it's kind of like you knew existed, but now you really know exists.
You know what the big question mark though for me and others is just like when you see it, it's one thing, but then you realize, oh crap, there's somebody in there. Who are they? Why are they here? Why don't they talk to us? You know what I mean? There's a lot of questions that go rattling around once you see something like that up close, undeniably.
And it does make you wonder, but what you're saying also makes a lot of sense too. It's like they don't care to the point to where they want to come talk to us like that. You said like they're fighting their own wars above us, and we're kind of their puppets, their slaves.
Well, only because they are criminals. They are violating our free will by doing that. And like I said, this is okay. So if from a religious perspective, they say Archangel Michael is battling with Lucifer, the serpent. And there's some truth to that, but I'm not sure so much that it's to liberate us as it is to settle a score between them. It's ultimately though, what happened is that their little, I mean, you could say that this universe was an experiment to see what it's like to live outside of heaven, away from God, our Father. And that I agree with. And what started off as being rather simple became more and more complex and more levels of separation or degrees of separation to the point where not only are we separated from God, we're separated from each other for whatever reason, put labels. And then ultimately, even in ourselves, we became segmented, left brain, right brain, conscious, superconscious, subconscious, whatever, you know what I mean? It's all about breaking it down into this mechanistic, reductionist kind of thinking and living, which is not only unsustainable, it's unnatural. That's not part of God's plan. That's something that, it took me a long time to come to that, where I could put my ego aside and actually ask this question is, how could a perfect, loving God create an imperfect universe filled with imperfect beings that he then punishes for being imperfect? I mean, none of that makes sense. Sorry.
Oh, totally agree. I mean, I find that the connection there very interesting myself. I don't consider myself a religious person, but I do consider myself a spiritual person.
Me too. Yeah, exactly.
So, and I do believe in a higher power, just like that.
Right.
Let's get this right in here.
Go ahead.
Liv Light's going to squeeze one more question before we get out of here. Speaking on energy, one article mentioned the body as a toroidal energy vortex.
Yeah.
Do you think scalar wave healing centuries will improve us? Please explore more healing
centers,
modalities, info in future work. Wow, she loves it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yes, there's a lot of technologies. I know people call med beds or whatever, but that's kind of silly. Royal Rife already did this. And with the frequencies of resonance that allow the body to, on a cellular level, to actually resonate in a way that was harmonious as opposed to dissonant. Dissonance is just like two waves that are basically destroying each other. They cancel each other out. And that's what the dark side is. It's power, but it's destructive power. And that's ultimately what is consuming this universe. The scientists call it entropy. It's just it's blindness. It's a stupidity, actually. The Gnostics call it the demiurge. I think a lot of it has to do with they became overly reliant on artificial intelligence.
Well, I tell you what, clearly on your Substack, you've got some amazing, super interesting articles to check out.
Thank you.
I tell you, is there any other, like you got 2 books out as well. correct?
Yeah, but you can, okay, look, for this audience, I mean, or anybody, if you go to robertstanley.substack.com and go to the top at the You Can Handle the Truth, and there's a picture of the Capitol building, just click on that. In the article, I've got links to, you can download my books for free as PDFs. I don't care. At this point, yeah, go for it. And also, there's a book there called The Shining Ones. When you scroll down, you'll see the cover of the book. Click on that. You need to read that. It's quantum leap ahead of Sitchin's translations or interpretations.
You said
really
The Shining.
helpful. It's called The Shining Ones, yes.
Okay. And now, if somebody did, though, if they did want to purchase the book, throw some love.
Yeah, there's links there. Yeah. If you want a print copy, fine, or Kindle, it's all Amazon owns my stuff. I didn't. I should have read that contract a little bit better. But anyway, yes, you can you can get that if you want. If you don't mind reading a PDF, that's great. You can have it. It's like my pleasure, even though it was actually a really serious pain in my rear end doing that, because the frustration of saying, hey, we've got these pictures, I've got this historical timeline, this database. Don't you think it's kind of important? And people are like, yeah, not really. No, it's okay. We don't want to deal with it. Washington, D.C. sucks. So no, don't bother us with that. It's just been a brick wall for me. I'm slamming my head against a brick wall most of the time, not always.
Well, I'll tell you what, Robert, this has been a fantastic episode. Not near enough time. I will shut up next time so much more and let you talk.
No, that's okay.
We have to get you back on this show, Robert. We absolutely have to get back because we got to talk more. But, guys, we are out of time this evening. But Robert Stanley, thank you so much. Guys, get over there at Robert Stanley on Substack. Check out his stuff. Robert, thank you so much for coming on to Beyond the Simple Hat.
Yeah, my pleasure. Take care.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Like I said, an hour ain't long enough with Robert. This guy, he's a walking knowledge of very interesting stuff on UFO phenomenon. Get over to the Substack. Check him out. Guys, if you have not done so, be sure to like, subscribe the podcast, follow us on YouTube, wherever else you listen to podcasts at. Be sure to check us out. And also head over to Patreon at Heed the World on Patreon. Make a little $4 donation and check out some really super cool articles in return. Guys, it's been a fun episode. Thank you so much, Live Life, for your questions. Can't wait to see you next week. Guys, we have been broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Network on 105.3 FM and 107.7 New Orleans. Keep the paranormal normal, my paranormal junkies, and I will see you next week. All right, that does it for this episode of Beyond the TinFoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the TinFoil Hat.